You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Hi, welcome to That's Tasty. I'm Claudia Donnell, and today we're going to make a nice, wonderful, quick meal for you to make. Every spring I do this to myself. Right now we're in the middle of August, but you know, you go through all those winter months and everything's cooked in the oven or on top of the stove, and you crave those wonderful barbecued flavors. So the first opportunity I get when there's no snow on the grill and we have one of those unusually warm days in February or March, got to get the barbecue going. And I know when I'm doing it way back in the end of winter or the beginning of spring, Claudia, don't do this, you're going to get sick of it. And sure enough, here we are in the middle of August and I'm tired of barbecuing everything. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to make a roast pork. For the lack of anything better to call it, I'm calling it not just honey pork. But before we get into that, I want to show you a couple of things. This is called an oven thermometer. I live by these. I don't test my oven every time I use it, but I do test it at least once a month. I have two ovens. The big oven is you say it's 350 degrees, you put your thermometer in and guess what? It comes out as 350 degrees. If I use my small oven and I set it at 350 degrees, it comes out 375 degrees. So it's really important for you to know exactly what the temperature is in your oven because it does affect how it cooks. Your food might cook too fast, you might cook too slow. This is going to give you an idea of exactly what the temperature is in your oven. It's good for baking, everything, roasting. That's the first one. We're into temperatures today, maybe because I'm hot, I don't know. But these are the tools that I use. Now this one was a little more expensive. These are all meat thermometers. I'm not going to suggest that you use this, although it is pretty cool. This is the probe that you put in the center of your protein, and you can set the timer on it. You can say, hey, let me know when it reaches X amount of internal degrees, and it gives you an alarm. It's very cool, and I like it a lot. This is a regular meat thermometer, and you can see here it has this little thing that you move around. I use this often on smaller things. I will use it today, and I have it set for my pork. I want to know when it reaches the internal temperature of about 158. It doesn't have an alarm on it, so it isn't going to say, hey Claudia, I'm 158. You still have to check it. But this recipe requires you to baste the pork every once in a while, so you'll be able to keep your eye on this. And when the needle reaches the arrow, then you know it's 158 degrees. Take it out, cover it with aluminum foil, let all the juices redistribute into the roast, and it's going to cook a few more degrees after you take it out of the oven, so your pork is going to be juicy and not dry. That's a good thing. This is also a thermometer. Now this is a digital instant thermometer. This one here, you put in the roast as you put it in the oven. It cooks with the roast. It doesn't really cook, but it stays in while the roast is cooking. This one is an instant thermometer, and it's digital, and it's within a 25 to 30 second time frame. You'll have a very accurate gauge of the internal temperature of whatever it is that you're cooking. So these are some of my tips. I would suggest, if you're going to buy anything, buy this. If you want to buy something else, buy this. These two are inexpensive and they're very accurate. You will, however, have to change buy new ones from time to time because they get old, they get covered with splatter and all that sort of thing. And then me personally, I kind of doubt the temperature after a few years use of what it's actually telling me. So your meat thermometers and your oven thermometers. Today we are going to make this not just honey pork. So we're going to make the sauce first. This is 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. We have 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. This is 2 tablespoons of light olive oil. And this is 3 tablespoons of honey. So I got that. I'm going to take my garlic. This is called the garlic press. Many of you probably have it. I love it. You know, being of Italian descent, garlic is very important. It's kind of in our blood. So you just put it in. You give it a good squeeze and hope that it doesn't splash all over the place like it just did. But that's all right. It takes and minces very finely your garlic. And then everything comes right out. Isn't that nice? That's the skin and all the stuff that you don't want to go in your food. And it makes it a lot easier for you to clean that little tool. And we want to put in, here they are, sorry about that. We want to put in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. This is kosher salt that I use, and 1/2 teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. I ground this up this morning, and I use a coffee grinder to grind up all my herbs, dry and fresh. Don't use the coffee grinder that you grind your coffee beans in, because they will assume the flavor of the spices that you use. So get one, a cheapie. You can get them most anywhere, and keep that specifically for the herbs and spices that you're going to use. So I'm going to mix this. I'm going to just set it aside. I'm going to prepare my roasting pan. Now take a look at this pan. This was my mother's pan, and it's probably 65, maybe older, but 65 years old. It's in excellent condition, and it's one of my favorite things because, hey, guess what? My mother made food in it that she fed my father, my sister, and I in. So it has great memories for me. I'm just going to give it a quick spray with a bake oven spray. This is pork loin. It's a top loin boneless pork roast, and I love it. This is one of my favorite cuts. Typically, most of the fat is cut off. You see here, it's a little bit of the tenderloin. So delicious. It's really a very, very delicious cut of meat. So I'm gonna liberally season it. You always want to season your meat. So we're gonna put a little bit of salt up from high, makes everything distribute more easily. A little bit of pepper. Roll it over. Do it again. Seasoning makes things taste better. You can put as much on it as you want or as little, but you really should season it. That's what makes it all taste good. So I am going to take my meat thermometer, and I'm going to put it right here in the middle. And that's where it's going to stay. All right? So now we're going to take this. Actually, we're not going to do that yet. This is also cooked with potatoes and onions around it, so that everything pretty much cooks the same way. This is a little 2.3 pounds of pork. So this is going to take about an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes to cook at a 350-degree oven. I'm going to take my potatoes, and you want to dice them into 1-inch cubes or smaller, because what you want to make sure that the potato cooks at the same time that the pork does. Now, ironically, the potato is much more solid than the meat. So the potato is the one that you really want to have to make sure is cooked properly, is cooked through, because unless it's a French fry, I don't like crispy potatoes. They need to be cooked. And these I'm using as white potatoes, and I did not peel these because these are beautiful new potatoes, and the skin on them is very thin. So if you want, you can peel it. You don't have to. It's all a matter of taste. So we're almost done. What we're going to serve here will feed 4 to 6 people, depending upon the appetite of the person. And one other thing, when you're buying your protein, the raw weight, you want to approximate 6 to 7 ounces per person, raw weight. Because after it cooks, it's going to shrink, and you're going to have just about the right amount of 4 to 5 ounces of protein per person. So now I'm going to take my onion, cutting this off. I am going to cut a little bit of the stem end off as well, but I'm going to keep that somewhat intact, and you'll see why. We're just going to remove the outer layer of the onion. And I'm going to cut these through this stem part, because what that's going to do is it's going to keep the onion somewhat intact, so that if somebody that's going to eat this meal doesn't like your onion, it can more easily be eaten around, so to speak. So that little stem keeps it intact, and you want to keep these as close to the same size as possible. So we have our potatoes. We're going to put some seasoning in it. I'm going to put in another teaspoon of salt. Actually, I'm going to put in about 1.5 teaspoons of salt, because potatoes require a little bit more seasoning than some others, because of the starchy, dense property. And a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to toss it. Ordinarily, I would use my hands. I always use my hands. Those are the best kitchen tools available. They don't cost you anything, and all you have to do is wash them. But because I don't want to turn my back on you, because that's rude, I'm not going to do that. All right, so here we go. We got our pork. And I'm going to put some of this on both sides of the pork. Turn it over. Now, some pork that you find, and it's a loin as well, you'll see there's a bigger cap of fat. So you always want to roast anything fat cap up, so that as the fat gets rendered down through the heat of the oven, it is going to automatically just baste your food without without you having to worry about it. So we've got that. We're going to Put this in around the pork. Oop, make a mess on your counter. That's all right. Put them back in. And up like that. There we go. And guess what? We're ready to put this in the oven. I'm going to give it another little tiny bit of sauce over it. And in the oven it's gonna go. 350 degrees for approximately an hour. And your supper will be done. Now, through the magic of television, by the way, sorry, I preheated my oven at 350 degrees. And again, it's very important that you preheat things so that when it goes in, it actually is going to cook. Through the power of television, one is already completed. And this is basically what's left. It's in the oven staying warm. So I'm going to take the leftover, excuse me one second, the leftover sauce that I had made. Oh, I'm gonna put it in here. And I'm going to use a cup of no salt chicken broth. And I'm going to bring it up to a boil. Give it a good mix. Once it's mixed, I'm going to taste it for flavoring to make sure there's enough salt and in it. So we've got a nice little sauce here. Delicious. We're going to bring it to a boil and reduce it by half. Now, one of the things too, you saw on the pan that there was some brown, and what that is just some of the sauce that got cooked in the roasting process. So we're going to let that come to a boil, and it's going to reduce by half. So this is the magic of television, ladies and gentlemen, that really doesn't exist. We are the magic of television. So early this morning, I got up to cook this. Look at it. Now, that's not how I'm going to serve it, but that's the beginning of it. This is starting to boil. I'm going to put this in a nice platter. This is really old too. This also was my mother's. 60-something, actually, no, yeah, it's 60-something years old. I don't know if any of you used to have them, still have them. I'm not sure if it was something that was bought at a store or if it was bought with S&H green stamps or gold bond stamps. You remember those? I think I just gave away my age. We got to check this out, keep this moving, and I'm going to taste it. Oh, it's good. But I'm going to put a little bit more salt in it so that we can get a little bit more flavor. So this is going to thicken up a little bit. All right. So I've got that. I'm going to slice the pork. You want to give your family, your guests a good sized piece. And look at how juicy this is. This has been sitting for a while. It got cooked and I said, I don't want you to get dried out, so we're just going to let you sit for a while. Remember I told you, redistribute all those juices back in the meat. I gotta make it pretty. Maybe. I think it's still alive. Okay. And we're going to put the potatoes back in. That was hot. It was in a hot oven. That's hot. Yeah, let's go check this out again. Scraping up all the brown bits because it's flavor. I'm going to lower it a little bit, but we still want it to boil down. Now we're good. All right, so I don't have to touch this again with my hand and burn myself. I'm going to just put the potatoes around it. Make it look nice so that the people that are eating it, they eat with their eyes first. Keep that in mind. So you want it to look pretty. You want it to be appetizing. You want it to smell amazing. Because if you get all those things, chances are really good, it's going to taste great. You can also you can put vegetables in here. You can throw a meat, mushrooms in it if you want. I just want it nice and simple. And all this juice is going to go right back over the meat. Not yet. Heck! Here we go. But that's not the real prize. This is the real prize. Let's check this out now. Just shut it off. Oh, that's delicious. All right, let's put this on. We're going to have ourselves a wonderful meal. There's a little bit of onion still in there. It doesn't really matter. I'm one that kind of likes flavor. So if a piece of onion gets stuck, I really wish you could smell this because it smells amazing. You can smell the soy sauce, you can smell the Dijon. You can't really smell the honey, but you know it's there. And it's delicious. So I told you, I mentioned it before, really, somebody out there's got to figure out how we can do smell-o-vision. Lots of people are going to be happy. So here's this deliciousness. Hold on one second. Let me just clean this up a little bit. Now I didn't make a vegetable, so what we're going to do is I am going to make a little bit of a tomato salad. Typical Italian tomato salad. Simple, 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 and then more simple. So I'm going to take some nice tomatoes, because the ones in my garden, they're not ready yet. So we had to cheat. Pardon me, I have to get a bowl. All right. So we're going to take our tomatoes and we're going to just cut them. You can cut them any way you want. Simple. This is so simple and it tastes so good. And if you don't like tomatoes, you don't want to live at my house because we have this almost on a nightly basis. I don't, on these small little Campari tomatoes, I don't cut the stem off, or the stem part, because it's so small and it's tender. Unlike big tomato, it gets really tough and dry. So these are kind of easy. So there's that. I'm going to put a clove of garlic in. This is all I'm going to do. I'm just going to smash it, get rid of the paper, throw it in. A little bit of salt and pepper. Pardon me. Got to get the salt. Salt. Pepper. A little olive oil. And a little bit of red wine vinegar. Ratio 2 to 1. 2 parts oil, 1 part acid. And we're going to, pardon me, I have to get a spoon. Give this a nice toss. And there you have a beautiful meal. Whether it's during the summer, fall, winter, spring, this is a delicious meal. Let's check it out. There's some leftover sauce too if people want more than what they see there. We take a little bit of the meat. Gonna give myself a little bit of this. Delicious. A little bit of this. And here you go. You've got a nice meal. Let's check it out. Let's check it out. That's tasty. It's so good. It melts in your mouth. It's juicy. The flavors are great. A little sweet. A little bit of tang from the Dijon. The potatoes have wonderful flavor. And the tomatoes, delicious. So, there you have it, my people. Delicious meal. Easy. Not expensive. Be all done for you, an hour, 10, 15 minutes. You're done. So that's not a bad thing to make. So, for That's Tasty, I'm Claudia Donnell, and I'm going to say until next time, happy cooking, happy eating. Bye.